Hello and welcome, I'm Krystle with Owl Knights Media, and I'll be reviewing Helldivers 2 from the perspective of a casual gamer. This online-only multiplayer game was created by Arrowhead Studios. It's a third-person shooter that sends you on missions to fight for democracy. This game can be played on either PlayStation or PC, and I myself played it on the PlayStation 5. There are several things I'd like to talk about, from the pros of mission times and playing with friends, to the cons of unclear instructions and login issues. This game was an interesting one to say the least, so with that, let's dive right in. Starting with the pros, I personally loved the fact that the missions were relatively short. Being able to queue into a mission and be done with it with decent rewards in 10 to 15 minutes seemed reasonable to me. I would even argue that some missions seem to take less time, especially if you queue into an already halfway done mission. Another pro was being able to play with 3 of my friends online. I'm a huge co-op fan, however, I'll explain later on why the co-op system in this game isn't my favorite. My husband and I did a few missions together and certainly found the game more fun this way. Being able to watch each other's backs from the hordes of enemies certainly makes things easier. Pro number 3 is the upgrade system for the gear and ship. I like that it's not hard to get the materials needed to upgrade. You simply need to run missions and complete them while also searching the map for samples. The upgrades for gear seems reasonably priced, with only the outfit having stats allowing for easy builds to be made. Upgrading the ship allows you to customize your perks, more for your personal gameplay. Maybe you want some bombs. No? How about a turret instead? I like that I can pick and choose. The last pro I have to talk about is how you're free to do missions you want and aren't necessarily sent on a straight track, as well as the difficulty you do them at. This allows me to pick and choose the missions I prefer over the ones I'm not a fan of, and adjust the difficulty when I want something a tad more hard to do. Now on to the hard part of this review, the cons. One of the things I had an issue with in the first week of buying the game was I was practically locked out. Stuck in hour-long queues or seeing a black screen upon opening the game was certainly frustrating. However, I am one to understand and also give props to the developers because they did end up fixing the issues. They had server overload and implemented a queue, which backfired because people were staying logged in, not allowing others on. Which they then created a boot system to deal with that. Kudos. My second con brings me back to the co-op system. I love co-op. However, I'm not a fan of being forced to play it. Especially being forced to play full 4-man party co-op in order to complete a mission on the easiest setting? Wild. My husband and I didn't realize it would be an issue as we queued into a Defend the Citizens mission and ended up wasting a solid hour getting killed over and over. We never completed it as the 2 of us, however, I did complete it with others online, which is where I realized even the 4 of us were struggling. My third con would have to be the unclear instructions the game gives for daily missions. One of the scenarios that instantly pops to mind for this is when it asks me to kill a specific enemy. However, I don't recall a single time the game actually told me the enemy's names. So how would I know which enemy they are referring to? I tried checking the mission's titles or details, and none of them say the enemies you're fighting. The most you know is one side has automatons and the other is terminates. So I ended up having to Google what enemy I even had to kill. Another con is the lack of story. This game opens up with a funny video talking about how we are going to fight for democracy, however, that's all we really get. I'm personally a huge fan of games with storylines, and seeing as I didn't play the first, I didn't realize this game didn't have one. This is more of a personal preference than anything else. My fifth con is how clunky the character movement and gunfire seems. Running around is pretty slow, and if you dive, you're basically animation locked for a solid amount of time. You definitely have to be more mindful of your gameplay. No reloading all the time, it wastes ammo, no diving from enemies, it will likely get you killed. Just overall clunky. My last con is more of a struggle bus kind of con, and that's getting killed by my teammates. Now, this isn't so bad. I even find it hilarious sometimes. However, it can also get frustrating in that my teammate could throw a turret down, nowhere near me. But because I'm shooting enemies, the turret will turn in my direction and mow me down along with everything in its path. I've set off bombs and ran away just to watch my poor teammate run into it. This con is more of a feels bad rather than something that's game ending for me. To wrap things up, I'd have to say I just don't think this game is for me personally. However, if you're into third-person shooters that you go on missions with others, I'd say give it a go. You may very well like what this game has to offer. I personally wanted to like this game, just couldn't vibe with a certain style. On that note, I'd like to thank you for listening to a casual gamer review of Helldivers 2. Again, I'm Krystle with Owl Knights Media, and I hope to see you soon. Bye!